Did you decide to commit everything that you have into making your game a reality? Then congratulations on your decision. I want to inform you that on your journey you'll encounter a hidden enemy, and that is the burnout. In this video you'll find out the following: what is burnout and how to discover it, how can you become burned out even without realizing it, how can you escape burnout, and or even better, how to avoid it entirely. Let's find out together. Hi, I'm Adrian and welcome to Redefine Gamedev. The purpose of this channel is to find the secret of a game developer's success. If you want to hear the latest information about this, consider subscribing to the channel, and also to be the first one to know, consider hitting the notification bell as well. Burnout is a serious problem in game development. You might have been already burned out. There are obvious signs that can tell us if we are burning out or we are already there. Burnout is a self-reinforcing mental state that once set in, it's really hard to first acknowledge it and then second, deal with it. So what are the possible signs that might signal that the burnout has settled in? You might feel hollow on the inside. You might open your project and stare at it for hours without achieving anything. You might become pessimistic of your project's outcome or even your future. You might have insomnia. You might start procrastinating the tasks that you have or find other time fillers to not do what you have to do. Of course, it's good to understand that burnout manifests differently in each one of us. So these are some possible answers, but for you it can manifest in totally different ways. Make sure you are alert and be aware of this mental state. Now let's find out how you can become burned out. Firstly, let's think about the human body. It has limits, your physical limits. Just think how much you can run without needing to catch your breath, or how many push-ups you can do without calling it quits. As we have physical limits, we also have mental limits. These are often not understood properly because they're not easily pinpointable, like for example, let's say a muscle pain, but they definitely exist and we need to address them. You can become burned out at your current job. For example, if you are overworked or under challenge, that might be a sign of being burned out at your current work. Most mental stress comes from pressure. Pressure to deliver on time, pressure to make everyone else happy except you, or the pressure that you might lose your current way of living. This, for your own project, it becomes even more harder. Let's find out why. Let's say you quit your job and you start working full-time on your dream game project. This is where the burnout might set in without you even realizing. You are on your track to delivering your game. The game makes visible progress. You are burning milestone after milestone up until one point when you reach that time period, that 80% of the game done, and you have to do the other 20%, which feels like another 80%, the game polishing, which is a lot of effort with diminishing rewards or even less visible effect. And now you start to realize that your game's progress is getting past the budget that you have allocated. And this means that your way of living is threatened. At this moment, you might enter into a panic mode, and you might enter a continuous crunch time, which means ditching your leisure time, your friends' time, taking care of your health, going to the gym or for a walk, and you just pour every ounce of your energy into making the game a reality at the cost of everything else. Steady but surely, you start a self-reinforcing loop that will lead you nowhere. From that moment on, burnout is imminent. So, how can we fix it, or how can we prevent it? If you realize that you're becoming burned out, one thing to do is first you have to break that loop. Once you broke that loop, you have to distance yourself from the project by either starting a side project or doing some completely different activities, like going for walks or meeting your friends or any other types of activities that will help your mental health recover. In fact, take as much time as you need. You'll need this in order to survive the long run. And the key word here is the long run. If you want to be successful in game development, you have to be prepared for the marathon, not for the sprint. And how you do this is, of course, staying aware of the hidden enemies, for example, like burnout. The truth is, you don't have to be productive all the time. It's normal. We are scared of the outcome of what might happen if the project doesn't make it, or if we cannot deliver on time. but that's just one part of the self-reinforcing loop. In the end, game development is a business, and if you want to make it long time, you have to be aware, for example, of motivation loss. By the way, I have an interesting video popping up right now. Or even better, to be aware of the burnout and what that might do to you. Overcoming a burnout, once it sets in, it's much more harder because you have to break the loop and wait for it to recover itself. What is better is to prevent it entirely. Let's find out 5 tips that will help you to avoid burnout. Tip number 1. Set up a routine. While people hate routines, they're actually good in some regards because they allow us to clearly delimit our time, which is work time, leisure time, friends time, and so on. And by doing this, you'll get work done, but you'll also take care of your mental health. Tip number 2, set up deadlines. While this might sound counterintuitive because they might put pressure on you, if you don't set up deadlines, there is a law called Parkinson's law, which states that if we have a task and we have a certain deadline, we will find ways to fill that time to be able to finish it in that set deadline. But what if that task doesn't have a deadline? Then what happens? Theoretically, this can go indefinitely and we cannot finish the task ever. Tip number 3, make your progress trackable. It's clearly that not all the progress can be seen. For example, optimizing your code, creating a backend service, or implementing some feature that doesn't have a visual representation. What you can do here is either use Trello or Jira or any other task tracker, and by moving the tasks from the column to do to done, you'll clearly see the progress happening, even if visually nothing happened. Tip number 4, don't scope creep. While you might want to add a feature and another feature and another feature to make your game fun as possible, that's not the point. You need to create the core game loop, which is solid, and deliver that. And it's no problem if you don't include all the features that you wanted to. Just make a list and then remember that you can always make a sequel out of it. Tip number 5, don't overpromise. At some point in time in your project, you'll have to make statements. And if those statements reach the internet and new fans or other people find that you don't keep your promises, they might get really annoyed with that. You might get bad reviews or even worse, no sales. So what can you do to fix this? Well, instead of promising people rocket ships and delivering toy rockets, do the opposite. Promise them toy rockets and aim for delivering them rocket ships. In this way, you manage their expectations in a nice way because they'll receive much more than they were promised, and you'll actually get a better impact than doing the opposite. To conclude this, I want to stress out that burnout is a serious problem in game development and it can be overcome. If you don't have the strength to do it, seek for help and don't let it just set in and do whatever it wants. Once you get back on the track to success, you also can get back to this channel by subscribing, because this is how you gain an edge into your game development and improve your chances of success. I'm Adrian and I'm signing out.